Hi, thanks Akshay, and a very good afternoon to everyone, all the guests who are attending, and the dignitaries who have joined us together in the panel today. And I wouldn't take much time, and I would invite for the keynote address for this event on mastering the ESG journey and unveiling of the ESG Almanac, both the India and the global versions, uh, Mr. Alok Dheer. Mr. Alok Dheer is the founder and managing partner of Dheer and Dheer Associates, a leading full-service law firm, and is the first firm to launch ESG practice in India. Mr. Dheer has been consistently recognized as a leading lawyer by Legal 500, Chambers and Partners, IFLR 1000, India Business Law Journal, Benchmark Litigation, and many more. I won't keep you myself in between his keynote address and the start of the event. So, Mr. Alok Dheer, please.
Thank you, Sonal. And Sonal, I must say, you never stop playing the trick on me for at the last moment. And you asked me just to welcome everybody. And now you have put me on the cross by saying that I have to deliver a keynote address. Well, let me plod along and see what we can do. But they are all eminent guests present today: Girish Joshi, Manish Gupta, Dheeraj Khandelwal, Anil Gambhir, Anubhav Kapoor, Inderpreet Kaur, Seema Bennett, and all friends and delegates who've joined us. A big thank you for sharing this moment with us and participating in this event of unveiling the ESG Almanac. I am delighted to announce the release of the Indian and global version of the Almanac, which is the first of its kind proprietary tool developed by Dheer and Dheer Associates. This Almanac constitutes a set of actionables collated to provide a simple framework for businesses to interpret and ascertain a definite annual agenda in line with the ESG obligations. The release of the Almanac is very timely, as the SEBI in its board meeting on 25th March 21 and subsequent circular released a new format, reporting format, on 10th of May 21, replacing the existing business responsibilities reporting mechanism, BRR, with the business responsibility and sustainable reporting mechanism, the BRSR. While this framework is voluntary for 21-22, it will become a mandatory obligation for listed companies from 22-23. While the concern on ESG is a serious aspect for consideration by entities in India who believe in sustainable and inclusive future, however, we have seen that increasingly corporates have to think beyond financial return and need to lay additional emphasis on global needs for sustainable and inclusive development, and they are likely to be judged on their response to pressing social and environmental issues while ensuring financial growth. Today, foreign capital places a lot of emphasis on ESG compliances by the investing company. For Indian corporates to grow, ESG has become an imperative in a world where the realization has set in that mere wealth creation at the cost of exploitation of the environment, human resources, and governance standards is no more acceptable. ESG is not merely a compliance requirement, but is a new way of life in doing business. In this background, our Almanac will act as a lighthouse for our corporates, a beacon for navigating the increasingly complex compliance requirements for the corporates to follow to address their ESG concerns. As you are all aware, years of exploitation has brought the world to the brink of disaster in just one generation. We've seen environmental degradation at an increasingly fast rate. Global warming, climate changes, tsunami, wildfires, soil degradation, depleting forest cover have devastated large land masses. Air pollution, noise pollution, toxic air, water, and food have disturbed the ecological balance of our planet. Exploitation of workmen, child labor, human slavery, trafficking is the worst type of exploitation suffered by the human race. We are hurtling towards complete devastation. ESG stands as a sentinel to guard against any further exploitation of our environment, human resources, and to put a sustainable governance standards in place. We at Dheer treat this situation as a defining transition of our time, and ESG as the tool to drive positive change to our society and redefine business goals for our corporates to become responsible stakeholders in building a better world. We see ourselves as the Khevaias, the boatsmen, working with and helping corporates, governments, business, investors to cross the chasm to a more responsible, sustainable, and inclusive future. And lastly, just before I leave, I wanted to leave you with a thought that has been concerning me for a while now. We have seen exploitation of natural resources, human rights, poor business practices, and lax corporate governance. Perhaps ESG, along with the sustainable development goals, is the answer to that. However, we are now facing an exploitation of a very unique kind, the most valuable and inexhaustible resource, the human mind. Social media, engineers, behavioral scientists, psychologists, etc., are working on technologies to create tools to control and influence the mind and behavior of the humans for commercial gains. These new tools replace the shovel for extracting natural resources, axe, the environmental degradation, sword, the human domination of yore, with insidious, unseen, and imperceptible ways to control, influence, and exploit the mind. It is the last frontier. If we cannot create adequate defense mechanisms and processes, humanity will be in peril. A few decades from now, H may be added for humans to ESG. However, I can assure you that we at Dheer and Dheer will be working tirelessly to avoid this Armageddon. Thank you so much. With this, I give it back to Super.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dheer, for aptly putting the thought process behind the ESG Almanac at Dheer and Dheer Associates. And in this whole journey of mastering the ESG for companies in India and globally. Now, won't take much time and would, in the presence of all the guests who have attended today and our dignitaries from Bombay Stock Exchange, ICSI, ICAI, Blue Dart, Ford India, Every Woman Limited, Beyond Governance, in presence of everyone on the background of what Mr. Dheer just told about the process, what on ESG could help for companies. I would request Akshay to play the unveiling of the almanac. So much for playing that shot, and it is really nice to have the unveiling of the ESG Almanac. I know if it was a physical situation, it would have been a far more wonderful thing to have interacted on this very unveiling of the ESG Almanac.
Congratulations, Sonal, for a wonderful initiative. This is, I think, the first of its kind, and it will definitely prompt some good discussions on this topic. It's excellent. So congratulations, Mr.
Thanks, Mr. Kapoor. And I would now just, we have got a real great set of dignitaries with us. And in the first set, I would just like to quickly would invite the first set of our dignitaries from Bombay Stock Exchange, ICAI and ICSI. So quick introduction about each one of them. Mr. Girish Joshi is here, who is the Chief of Trading Operations and Listing Sales at BSE. Sri Girish Joshi heads the trading operations and listing sales of the exchange. He has worked with ICICI Bank for 10 years. At ICICI Bank Group, he worked in various areas like ICICI Direct.com, Treasury Mid-Office, and in the area of regulatory reporting and monitoring at CFO office of the bank. He was also one of the earliest core team members who were involved in the setup of National Stock Exchange, NSE. During 7 years at NSE, he worked in wholesale, debt market, and post-trade functions. He was also a member of Corporate Bonds and Securitization Advisory Committee of Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI. He represents BSE in Sustainability Working Group, SWG, of World Federation of Stock Exchanges, WFE, and also Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative of the United Nations. He has represented BSE in various subgroups formed by SEBI for market developments like eIPO, T+3 listing, regulatory framework for index providers, development of CBLO type products for corporate bonds, listing of REITs and InvIT. He has also represented BSE on the Secretarial Standard Board SSB formed by the Institute of Company Secretary of India, ICSI. Currently, he is also co-op member of Western India Regional Council of ICSI. Sri Girish Joshi, a commerce graduate from Sydenham College of Commerce and Economics, Mumbai, is a chartered accountant as well as a cost accountant by qualification. Welcome, Mr. Girish Joshi. I have Mr. Dheeraj Kumar Khandelwal, a Central Council member, ICAI. CA Dheeraj Khandelwal is currently Chairman of Committee on Public and Government Financial Management 2021-22 and Committee on MSME and Startups 21-22, and also Chairman of Committee on Public and Government Financial Management 2020-21 at ICI. In past, he has held multiple important roles in ICI committees over the last, I would say, 10, 15, 20 years. He's been a very strong hand at ICI. CA Dheeraj Khandelwal is a man of professional wisdom, vision, and strong organizational skills. He has wide experience in practice for nearly 20 years and has excelled in driving client relationships. He is also specialized in the field of audit, business advisory, and planning and company law matters, and also been involved in offering advisory services on accounting systems, etc., and their conformity with accounting standards, both Indian and international. He's also having a specialization in the field of project finance, FEMA, cross-border transactions, direct, indirect tax consultancy, and related legal matters. His clientele include large corporations, including MNCs, owner-managed companies, service businesses, and professionals. CA Dheeraj has also authored the following: CSR handbook, handbook on green audit, articles on various professional opportunities. He has also served as independent directors on the boards of companies like Edelweiss Financial Advisors Limited. Not only for the fraternity, CA Dheeraj Khandelwal is committed to his social responsibilities as well. and have tried to contribute towards the same in many ways. Like, he was the president of the Lions Club of Mumbai Western 2004-5, when he conceptualized and organized the first ever Empowerment Award for Winner Achievers in 2012. Being trustee of the Lions Club of Mumbai Western Charitable Trust, being zone chairman of Lions Club International District 323, and involved with other NGOs like Rajasthani Seva Sangh, Rajasthan Vidyarthi Grade, and Rajasthani Seva Samiti. He's joint editor of the World of Priyanka Monthly Hindi magazine and assistant editor of World of Great Faces, a monthly Hindi magazine. Continuing in the same zeal, even after putting in so many years in public life, it can be said that his best is yet to come. Welcome, C.A. Dheeraj Khandelwal. And I've got Mr. Manish Gupta, Central Council member at ICSI. CS Manish Gupta, FCS MCOM LLB IP, associated with the profession of company secretaries for the last 20 years, is presently practicing as a company secretary and is the managing partner of MS RMG and Associates Company Secretaries. Mr. Gupta is elected to the Central Council of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India for the term 2019-22. He is presently nominated as chairperson of PCS committee and chairman of PMQ committee of ICSI for the year 2021. He is also nominated as member of the Quality Review Board, the ICSI, and member of the Board of Discipline, the ICSI. Mr. Gupta's specialization is in handling complex assignments of corporate laws, security law, and taxation laws. He is regularly appearing before various quasi-judicial authorities and other regulators. Mr. Gupta was elected to the Northern India Regional Council of Institute of Company Secretaries of India for the term 2011-14 and 2015-2018. Mr. Gupta was unanimously elected as chairman of NIRC of ICSI for the year 2016. Earlier in his tenure at NIRC, he was vice chairman in the year 2015, secretary in the year 2014, and treasurer in the year 2013. He is a regular speaker in various training programs of students and members at NIRC and other chapters of Northern Region. Mr. Gupta is registered as an insolvency professional with IBBBI. Mr. Gupta is impaneled as arbitrator with BSC Limited and NSC. He is also impaneled as mediator or conciliator under the provision of the Companies Act 2013 with regional directors, MCA of Northern Region, Western Region, Northwestern Region, and Southeastern Region. Great to have you, Mr. Gupta. And post the introductions, I will request Mr. Girish Joshi to give his thought process on mastering the ESG journey and this whole process in which we did unveil the ESG almanac. Yeah, Mr. Joshi, we're waiting to hear from you.
Yes. Yeah. Good evening to everybody, and good morning to those who are attending this wonderful webinar outside India, particularly from the Europe continent. And thank you very much, Sonal, Sri Alok sir, Mr. Anubhav sir, and from Dheer and Dheer Associates, and my other fellow panelist member, Mr. Dheeraj, Seema, Manish Gupta, Inderpreet, and Anil from Blue Dart. So as right on said by Mr. Alok ji, ESG is now imperative for all of us, whether we are in a business enterprise or social enterprise, or whether we are in doing our own business, because we know the natural resources are limited. We have to live with that, and we have to nurture, because it is needed for our future generation. At the same time, we are also accountable to so many stakeholders. It is not just to increase your return, because return has to be given in so many ways, not to the society, to your customers, to your suppliers, and other stakeholders. And this is needed. And as ESG has been talked so much, of course, Paris Accord has also been signed by our government. Our Prime Minister also said in many forums that we are committed to reduce the carbon greenhouse emission and other carbon footprint. So I will not dwell upon that. That has been well articulated by Sri Dheeraj sir also. But where I want to touch upon that, what is so important for India and we as a professional, whether being a chartered accountant, lawyer, company secretary, or any other way, how we can take benefit of this for which will eventually benefit to us, our generation, and our country. As we know, India has so much young population, working population, and if you look at the West, they have aging population, and some same way it is, some are in the Japan and other countries, they are also facing. Even if you look at the China, they also now started adopting to more than one child policy. But India is in such a very unique position, even in geographically as well as demographically, where it can now take leverage because our young generation is so smart and they're adopting new technology. Then in such cases, when we are charting out our new path under the leadership of Sri Narendra Modi ji, and where we know where we have to divert our current resources which we are having, and even whether our demographic resources. So why can't we use this ESG theme in such a way that we achieve so much height that very difficult for other to compete? And in that way, how to we as a professional navigate, because we are associated with so many enterprises, whether business or non-business, as we said or I said earlier, and how we can help them. Because as far as governance is concerned, I would just like to record and appreciate even effort by our regulator SEBI. In terms of corporate governance, we are far ahead compared to the entire world. Means I assume we are in top 3 countries in terms of corporate governance and disclosures for a listed company which comes on stock exchanges, and even the other regulatory measures which SEBI is taking for insider trading. So that aspect, we don't have any problem. The problem is on the environment and social aspects. The only environment aspect is such that we have to have latest technology, because the environment, the situation is such that technologies are very costly and payback period is very important for industry to consider that. And there, we as a professional, we are influencing the so many corporate policies of the various clients which we are serving, and there we play very critical role on how to leverage and how to navigate these companies and how to channelize their internal working and strategy on E and S aspect. So as far as listed companies are concerned, governance is being taken care of. Even our Companies Act is also, I think, well ahead compared to the rest of the world, because so many provisions are there in our Companies Act also. So coming to the same aspect, how to start this journey, like SEBI, Alok sir said already, the BRSR is already SEBI has mandated. It is voluntary, and now it will be mandated soon. So to begin with that, this is a very wonderful thing with Dheer and Dheer Associate initiated, that you start with ESG calendar, which is very simple and very easy to adopt, and it will lay down the path, because there are many things, but such a wonderful initiative would help any company, whether they are listed or non-listed, if this calendar is being adopted. So it will help the companies to go in the right way, because sometimes it has been observed, that ESG is like a theme which only some big consultant and those people only can provide, and only big companies can afford. It is not like that. Even small and medium enterprises, they can also adopt. These are very simple things. Even our forefathers and past generation also adopted some of these practices. Only thing, you are not positioned yourself when you are adopting this practice, and you are not shown to the rest of the world. So this is the way where we should we could lay the journey for our business enterprise which we are working with and where we are associated. And I'm very much sure, I mean, as Indians, we are very smart and we understand this concept. Only thing, how to you disclose, because non-financial disclosure is very important nowadays when you deal with the international clients, whether you act in the capacity of supplier or in the capacity of customer. And they also insist that you demonstrate these best practices and then you get the business. Same way, when your company is also assigning business to other vendors and suppliers down the line, then these practices can be adopted, and it will help to conserve this limited resources which we have, and we can work out the new business model which will be useful to all of us. That's the only thing I want to say and add here. One important thing which all of us should know, that sustainability is, of course, we know it is very important for all of us that business models will be sustainable, but it depends on sector to sector, because in some of the sectors, like we are starting our journey, so it is possible that we may not adopt the most and latest standard which are being insisted by the some of the best companies across the globe, but we can definitely go, and we should go with that, because on the very first day we can't have the same technology, same thing which one of the best companies are adopting, particularly in the Western country, because it is very costly. But at least you can work in that way, and once we achieve certain level, then we can go to the second stage, because it is not necessarily, of course, some of the sector which we are leading, and we are, I think, leading examples for the rest of the world. I think where we are still doing a lot of good things in terms of environment and social aspects, and even we are, I would say, we are leaders for that. And I want to touch upon, though is a listed company, we have more than 5,000 listed company, but our experience is that as a ESG as a theme, or ESG as a best practices are being adopted or being demonstrated or articulated by the very few top companies. So the companies which are down the line, we have to enable them. We have to provide them very small or very effective tool, like what ESG calendar has been launched by Dhiren Associate. So we have to enable such tools for them, and then they are able to position themselves also on ESG aspect. Of course, there will be some, I think, panel discussion where I can also give my ideas on the investor preference nowadays for such companies. And I will at least now limit my talk or my ideas just now, and we'll wait for another question answer session. What are the investors' perspectives for ESG, and including lenders' perspective? So thank you very much, Sonal, again. And I'm hoping to see more wonderful discussion and association and fruitful, meaningful discussion with all of you. Thank you very much.
Great, Girish ji, for those thoughtful words on mastering the ESG journey. And I think what aspect you talked about, the investment and the lender part on ESG, I would make sure that hundreds of people who have joined in today, they will stick around to hear again back from you. So thanks. And I would quickly invite Mr. Manish Gupta to share his views on mastering the ESG journey, the ESG Almanac, and as an institute, all what on ESG you could be doing. Yeah.
Thank you, Sonal ji. Shri Alok Dhir ji, Girish Joshi ji, Dheeraj Khandelwal ji, Sonal Verma ji, and all other experts and professionals who are present here in this August gathering. Very good evening to everyone. I'm really honored to be part of this launch ceremony, and would like to thank Sonal ji and Divija for the kind invitation and inviting me here for this particular launch ceremony. Let me first start with the congratulations to Mr. Alok Dhir and to Sonal ji and for their entire team for venturing into the new set of practice of ESG. The concept of ESG Almanac or the calendar is one of the very unique concept which will surely help all the stakeholders in the days to come to monitor their compliances, as well as it will also allow them to plan their actions well in advance. And I am very much sure the concept, which is very new, would be wholeheartedly accepted by all the stakeholders, and they will be benefited while going through these compliances which are being highlighted in this almanac. Friends, let me also share my views on this ESG, although the tone is rightly set by Alok sir, and Girish has also substantiated all the views on the ESG. Friends, this ESG belongs to three most important factors which are now used to broadly determine and evaluate the corporate actions of an entity. The assessment is based on intangible factors and reckons the quantifiable indicators which makes investment, and just based on monetary and pecuniary factors, but based on the ethical and social factors as well. Though this ESG concept, the term sustainable investment, is brought into play through these concepts, Broadly speaking, the investors infuse funds based on the merits of the actions rendered by the entities on the environment, society, governance, and as a whole, the corporate governance. Thus, ESG is an ideology adopted by the companies whereby it creates value for its investors while putting emphasis on the environment, society, and its governance, which is in a way minimize risk for the future for its business, its investors, as well as on the society. In the in this direction, friends, corporates worldwide have been consciously endeavoring to mitigate the adverse effects that can be caused by the activities such as limiting their carbon footprints, as very rightly pointed out by Dhi sir and Joshi sir. Waste, maintaining good relationships with the stakeholders, contributing for the betterment, adopting a system of transparency and accountability, etc. ESG criteria is very relevant in today's world, where the impact of corporations on our surrounding is enormous. This impact can be either positive or negative. Some corporations disregard the cost of the profound damage they cause to the environment because of their actions, and they continue to do all those things by making profits, even if in the path of them generating such profit, they may drop the environment at the stage that cannot be recovered for the decades. And next, our future generation would be facing all those challenges. On the other hand, there are companies who operate on more positive side where they put the environment and the society at first place while simultaneously being true to their investors by maintaining a robust governance structures in their organizations. A responsible investor identifies the underlying principles behind these companies. A smart investor ascertains the value created by the company, and not only in monetary terms, but also in terms where the well-being of the whole society and the environment are accounted for. Friends, India is also gradually moving towards the ESG and its compliances. And SEBI, in the recent past, very recently in the month of March only, has various announced various compliances for the ESG parameters, and SEBI has introduced the business responsibility and sustainable reporting (BRSR) and replaced the older business responsibility reporting mechanism. And starting from the year 22-23, new reporting framework would be mandatory applicable to the top 1,000 listed companies. That is totally based on the capitalization, market capitalization. And the introduction of BRSR is expected to bring about greater transparency, accountability, while in alignment with the different ESG components. Friends, at this particular launch, I've been told that Dheer and Dheer would be the very first firm to launch this ESG practices, separate wing, vertical, which is being added to their practice. With a multi-talented SME group in India, and Sonalji is going to lead the very first dedicated ESG practice in India. I'm really honored to be part of this launch ceremony. Once again, my best compliments to the entire team, and I am sure they will bring values and compliances. The level of compliances would be increased with the help of their calendar and the almanac they have introduced to this ESG in India. Thank you once again for inviting me. Thank you.
Mr. Gupta, for sharing such warm words. And we would like to hear a bit more from you when we later in the evening today. Yeah, Mr. Khandia, we've been waiting for Mr. Dheeraj Khandelwal to hear from you on the mastering the ESG journey, the ESG almanac, and I know lots of things ICI does on ESG. So please.
Thank you. First of all, it's a great opportunity to be part of this unveiling of this ESG calendar and alumni. It's a great opportunity, and with the great personality from the alumni and all personality over here, like Manish Gupta ji, Anil ji, Vijay Joshi ji, Sonal, all people over here, and all participants. When these was, explaining the details about the setting the tone why it is requirement, even the Vijay Joshi ji and even the Manish ji has also explained. I was thinking about what I have to speak. Then I was just reminding myself in 2008 or 9 when I was having a lot of social cause on this area in the global warming, planet alert. I came out number of movements to aware of the clients. It's an awareness that we needed, and it's then still there was no impact on the societies. The balance between the nature and human is gravely skewed. Nature resources is still continuing depleting than never ever before. One part of the earth faces, rainfalls, and some other parts is droughts. So nothing had been changed from last 30, 40 years. TERI was there. The TERI organization is working for last, 30 to 40 years, there in this area. And still we are in this area of this problems. And we have seen in 2019 where about the natural disaster were near about 308, which is 7% of the which is related to climate related. And last 50 years, billion years, we are having series of the animal kingdom, and which is shrinking now is more than not less than 52%. And we have lost in wild population in last 40 years. Now we need to change ourselves. We need to work on ourselves, and we need to adopt some actionable adopting simple strategy for to combat all this area. And now the government has started, the people have started, industries have started, and we all working in this area. But today the role of the businesses is really important because it's a requirement. People are investing, people are doing, but it's a requirement to have a sustainable things in the sustainable development. And it's to be reported in the decision maker about the way in which activities contribute to the global sustainable agenda, which is to be required. And I believe that the Ministry of Corporate Affairs also in last year has came out the committee, constituted committee on the business responsibility reporting committee, and wherein they list out their requirement for the limited as well as the private limited company, and they came out various points which need to be followed by the all companies. The idea was transiting into the comprehensive disclosure requirement as well as demonstration of the leadership in this sustainable goals. And this continuity, the SEBI has also came out in the May 5 circular where about the 1,000 company has to follow this area. And in this area, I can say it's a great opportunity for all the professionals like advocates, chartered accountants, for implementation. And today I've seen this ESG calendar is amazing. We came out in the ICI a maturity model, sustainability reporting maturity model about how it can be, what the your BSR points should be, how it can be benefit to the rating agency. But you came out completely different ideas in the calendar side. Every day, everything are being taken care of it. What is the important rates are there? What is the global market over there? What is the analysis? Important analysis are there. So amazing. You have came out the concept, and we have a good opportunity for all people to explore the role as a sustainability practitioner for providing various professional service as a preparer, assurance provider, risk manager, investment advisor of the project. So these are the areas of the practice going to emerge in this area, and even after this COVID-19 pandemic, which is a great for role of the chartered accountant has to be on the business sustainability and recovery and ensuring sustainable decision making area going to be there. we in the ICI have came out a number of things in this sustainability things. As I said, we came out as SRMM model, which is came out last year in May 20, and which is going to help for the preparer, provider, compare the sustainable nature of the Indian company with the international companies. So that's a important work going to be there. And we came out on the sustainable things, various publication on the SDG from 1 to 6, 6 to 11, 12 to 17, all 17 goals. We came out the publication where the people can read it, what the attainment sustainable goal development goals are there. We also came out the background material on the BRSR also, where we can have a guidance on the disclosure on the quantitative information, assurance aspects, adoption of the best practices, what are the best practices are there. We also came out. We also came out standards on 3410, which is on the assurance and implement of the greenhouse gas statement. And still, it is very evolving, and members are learning it. We also came out a certificate course in this area. You know, like we have to increase our practitioner. More and more people should know about what are the best practices are there, what are the ESG model is there, what are the sustainable goods are there, how it can be developed. So entire reporting, analyzing systems are going to teach in this certificate course. And moreover, in the ICI, as you said, asked me about how other things are we doing. We also came out the ICI Sustainability Reporting Award also. So those good audit report, like Blue Dart, maybe going to be on the sustainable reporting, it may be awarded by the ICIC. And definitely, what you people are doing, we are also there. We can collaborate in a number of areas. The literacy drive also. But I can say it's a great importance being held was there, but now it's due recognized. And since long, we were waiting for this time to come, to have a proper sustainability things and proper reporting manner, where the quantification and qualification can also be clear. People can judge how the things are moving forward in this sustainability area and in this area. I think this is the time to change, and it's already come. And you people have come out with the practice area where complete free down level, every day-wise activities where I've seen it, where the board meeting is that, what are the important days of the world, what you need to do it. We are aware of that, how to have a carpool to have a, for emission of the CO2. But the point is that we need to have a checklist and a day-wise reporting. We need to CSR compliance head or ESG compliance head has to do what to everyday activities to do. That's a great point and great effort by your DNG. I compliment all of you for this a great webinar as well as the great unveiling of the CAG. So with this, I compliment
Thanks
to all of you.
Kind words, Mr. Khandelwal.
To discuss.
And it's great to hear all the great initiatives as an institute you're taking, and we do believe it's a multi-stakeholder approach on mastering the ESG journey. And we just got some demand coming from people who joined a bit late to rerun the video of unveiling the calendar. So
sure.
Please, Akshay. for playing that. Thanks for playing that, and it really benefited people who joined in late. And without taking any time more, let's welcome the next set of the panel who has joined in with us. Mr. Anil Gambhir, Mr. Anubhav Kapoor, Inderpreet Kaur, and Seema Bennett. Quickly run through the profiles and we get to start hearing your views. So we have with us Mr. Anil Gambhir, Chief Financial Officer, Blue Dart. Anil Gambhir is the Chief Financial Officer at Blue Dart Express Limited, South Asia's premier express air and integrated transportation, distribution and logistics company, and part of the Deutsche Post DHL, DPDHL group. Anil has a rich and varied experience of over 30 years across verticals as diverse as accounts, finance, taxation, treasury, operations, and audit. He has been a Blue Darter since March 1998. And in 2003, he was elevated to Senior Vice President, Internal Audit. He took over as Chief Financial Officer in 2017 and has been instrumental in promoting financial excellence and reporting while keeping an eye on the critical cost factor. Anil Gambhir is responsible for finance, strategy, investor relations, accounting, and costing and risk at Blue Dart. At Blue Dart, Anil has streamlined various processes, led cost optimization and efficiency improvement projects, and plugged revenue leakages. He has also been instrumental in designing, developing, and implementing Freight on Value, FOV, a value-added service to facilitate arrangements to insure goods through an insurance company. He is actively involved in system policy design, review, and known as a value creator by partnering with business process owners. Anil is also a certified senior advisor for First Choice Program, a group-wide customer-centered assurance and operational excellence Six Sigma program. Anil has been conferred with various accolades and recognitions, some of which include award for cost control and management at the 8th annual CFO 100 program. He has won top 100 CFO award consecutively for 4 years, 2018 to 2021. Earlier honored with the CFO Next 100 award at the CFO Next 100 award 2016. Recognized as one of the top 100 upcoming finance leaders of India at the 4th annual CFO Next 100 2015 award, to name a few. Anil loves traveling to scenic locations with his family and has visited most countries across Asia and Europe. Welcome, Mr. Anil Gambhir. I'm having Mr. Anubhav Kapoor, Director of Legal Affairs, Ford India, with us. Anubhav has more than 27 years of experience as company secretary and corporate lawyer, which spans across various industries, including IT, manufacturing, automotive, aerospace, food, pharmaceuticals, banking, and engineering services. Anubhav is a member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He's a law graduate and has also done his master's in law from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and MBA in Finance and Information Technology from Institute of Management Technology. He is also a member of various committees of CII. Having worked with large corporates like Tata Technologies, Cummins, Domino's Pizza, Polaris Software, I like to name a few. Anubhav has handled multifarious areas such as M&A, arbitrations, litigation, structuring large business contracts, etc. And as a company secretary, he has extensive experience in dealing with high visibility boards and has handled complex matters, including those related to board management, corporate governance, insider trading, private and public offerings. He has also a keen interest in intellectual property and innovation initiatives. During his tenure at Tata Technologies, Anubhav has also served as head of global corporate sustainability, at where he worked extensively in programs related to education of girls, promotion of diversity at workplaces, and encouraging innovation and design thinking among engineers. Very much welcome, Mr. Anubhav Kapoor. We have with us Inderpreet Kaur. Inderpreet Kaur Bedi is a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, the Chartered Governance Institute of the UK, and the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments UK. Along with being the chairperson of the ICSI UK Overseas Branch, Inderpreet is also a member of the Working Committee of Institute of Directors, Center for Corporate Governance UK, director on the board of the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, and a member of the Association of Women Chartered Secretaries of the UK. Inderpreet is currently working as a governance advisor with Beyond Governance Limited, advising FTSE and AIM listed companies. In her span of 8 years in India, she had worked as the group company secretary for the Indian joint venture of EDF Energy Novelis and Total EREN, and has been associated with companies like Shrey Infrastructure Finance Limited, Visa Steel Limited, and HSBC. So welcome Inderpreet. And we have Seema Bennett, the Global Commercial Director at Every Woman Limited. Seema has a background in sales and business development and is currently the Global Commercial Director for Every Woman Limited UK. She has a degree in biology and molecular biology and 15 years of experience in the biotech field. She began her career at DuPont in the UK in research and technical services and expanded her experience into sales and business development for Europe. After leaving DuPont, she continued her career with Amersham International G in the drug development area until 98. Seema then lived abroad with a family in Finland and China and was involved in many activities, including co-authoring a book and working for several charitable institutions and chairing several international women's groups. On her return to the UK in 2004, she established an interiors company and ran this successfully as managing director for several years before joining the board of a technology company in 2010. She then joined Every Woman in 2014 and is a part of the EXCO to further promote the advancement of women in business by partnering with companies on the range of Every Woman products and services. Welcome, Seema Bennett. And it's great to have the full house in now. And thanks for all the attendees and the panelists that we can take this discussion a bit more in detail. And in doing that, I would just try to play a few slides with certain statistics, which is very important in current ESG journey. So Akshay, can we put up the slides? Yeah, if you could put it on a slideshow. Yeah, the next one, please. So definitely, if you see, and there's the evolution of ESG. Post Kofi Annan's initiative in 2004, I think in 15, 16 years, it's been a huge impact. And if you see each of the years, there have been some very important things which have been happening. 2015 for me, on a personal opinion, did really put a push to the entire ESG concept. And if we could go to the next slide, please. Now, this is a very interesting analytics. If you could see in corporate promotion of ESG activities is varying markedly by region. North America, Europe, Latin America, Asia Pacific ex China ex Japan, and Japan, China, and at a global level. Now, it would be meaning that there's lots of culture change also needed. The value we know, but in each region we see that there is a culture aspect which also comes in. And we would be very much be mindful of that aspect being taken into our business decisions. The next slide, please. This was a very recent public domain CRISIL report on ESG. And this was again a very nice data representation which came that ESG is really meaning highest on the business continuity and the reputation. And if things are the way the whole world is working around ESG, we will see the last one being the identifying opportunities that will really move high. Maybe in a couple of years survey coming down the line. Yes, next slide, please. And always with ESG, one point comes, it's so many performance standards. Which one is the right for us? And even in the almanac, the guidance notes do say that it would all depend on the maturity in which a particular country would be in. Like currently in India on SDG, GRI, that's good enough to start with. In Europe, we're already seeing TCFD playing a major thing with all the FTSE listed companies. And in America, we see most companies aligning to the CDPs and the SASBs coming in. So it will be lots of, you say, voluntary choice in which companies will need to think and decide how their whole maturity journey would need to go. Yes, the next one, Akshay. 2021 has been interesting. From some real developments, like in January, we saw FTSE companies were told by the UK government, okay, TCFD alignment needs to start and completed by 2025. We then saw around 10th March, SFDR being rolled out on EU financial markets. So the complete rollout would happen next year. We saw a great thing by Joe Biden getting 40 global leaders for the virtual leaders summit on climate. That did really set up the tone, even in a virtual environment when people were not able to meet up. May in India, we saw SEBI on 10th May coming up, doing a transition from business responsibility reporting to business responsibility and sustainability reporting. June was again happening. Everyone across the globe was waiting for the EU directive on human due diligence to come up. But at last point, I suppose people did not agree and a future date is being worked out. But Germany on June 11 did come out with their legislation on human due diligence. And we saw that just a week or so before, I would be saying, the news is coming up that GRI and the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group is developing a EU sustainability reporting standard. And in India, we saw some good movements happening over in July on the data privacy bill, as well as on the state legislations on the 4 new codes which are to be introduced. So things are happening in the legal landscape around ESG, and we would be really required to be mindful of them. The next slide, please. And if we see just again, how on the regulations things are moving fast. And when we were putting the almanac, and it's not going to be a static almanac. So for next financial year, it would be a new almanac coming up with keeping in mind what changes in India or globally some of the major regulations bring about. And it won't ever be a static one. So the next slide, I know we need to start hearing on the panel. Akshay, this one was very important, which I thought, and I'm very sure Mr. Girish Joshi has talked, we will be talking on investment part, and the other panelists would also talk about it, that this is becoming important. ESG, investments, strategy, sustainable finance, all is coming in and is going to stay there. So, yeah, the next slide. Is there a choice anymore? And we'll have it heard from our panelists. We were having a pre-panel yesterday, and this was with one of the panelists I talked about. And he's really happy to speak more on this thing. It's no more a choice. Yes, and Akshay, there we have, yes. If we quickly see, yes, we can continue pulling them up. There's snippets from the calendar. The calendar would be for everyone's free access next week. And all these elements which we're talking about will be dealt by our panelists today. Yes, Akshay, anything else? Yeah, some more snippets. And we come up with the live hearing, which we need to hear from all the guests of repute we have today. So, Seema, are you there? Yeah. Hi. Now, one important component in the ESG Almanac has been, we have put in diversity, equality, and inclusion. And you have a huge experience in it. So as D&I is an important component of this Almanac, can you please elaborate with your experience on importance of D&I in the ESG journey?
Thank you, Sonal. Firstly, Sonal and Mr. Alok Dear, sorry, many thanks for your kind invitation for the launch today. It's very exciting. And thank you also to all the esteemed panelists. It's great to connect to you today. We at Every Woman, we are so delighted to be partnering with Dear & Dear. Our heritage and expertise is as Sonal has mentioned, 22 years of gender diversity and inclusion. And in that time, many things have changed. So diversity and inclusion, or diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI, is now an extremely important component in the social area of ESG, yes. And D&I practices have been increasingly adopted by companies over many years. In the last 10 years, there's been huge amounts of research around the relationship of a diverse workforce on metrics such as innovation, design, employee engagement, and staff retention, and ultimately profitability. And so, you know, it goes without saying really that employees that have a diverse knowledge base or diverse experiences and backgrounds, that leads to better and broader decision-making, making organizations more innovative and competitive. And so increasing that positive business outcome that we all want, ultimately leading to a better bottom line, better inclusion in the workforce, and obviously a better contribution to society as a whole. So we can see that investors are now looking at those companies with these positive trends in their DEI practices in order to invest further. DEI is core to ESG themes, and we see financial professionals frequently incorporating it into their investment strategies and capital allocation decisions. There is a real drive and importance on measuring these positive DEI trends. You know, that old adage, what gets measured gets done. And so, you know, measurements, return on investment, all these types of things are so important. Measuring, for example, an example could be the number of women you have in your development or succession pipeline. that will be moving into leadership positions, this becomes very important. The number perhaps of women on your boards becomes very important, not just non-executive directors, but executive directors. And many European countries now are adopting quotas for this so that you get that better balance right at the top and then at every other level. The other very important thing, and I think it was mentioned on one of the slides, Sonal, was measuring cultural diversity and having culturally diverse boards. That is becoming an increasingly important metric to measure. And so, for example, again, with gender, it's important not just to have women at every level, but to have intersectionality included as well. So women from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and people from all different protected groups to get that diverse thinking. So once you've attracted the right talent into your organization, which is quite an expensive thing to do, you need to develop and train that talent so that they are retained within your organization and you can keep that experience. And at Every Woman, I suppose, what we've learned over the last 22 years is that whole arena of attract, retain and developing your talent, particularly your female talent and diverse talent, will help organizations with much better business outcomes. All the research shows that the more diverse your workforce is, the better profitability you have on the bottom line and a much better social impact you have on your community. So there are many things that we're doing around this, which we are working with Dear and Dear on. But one thing that Sonal's mentioned that I should talk about is, this whole concept of global ESG around the D&I initiatives is so important. It's so important that we are now going to be doing a global forum mid-November, which covers all these topics so that, basically it will focus companies together to share best practice. What have they learned that works, that helps them become better organizations, more diverse, more inclusive? And actually, if you want any further information on that, do drop a line to Sonal and he can connect you with our sales director in India, Shaista. But I think those are the beginnings, Sonal, of that diverse mix that we want to start seeing in companies and which investors are looking for before they invest significant amounts.
No, that's very true. And what Mr. Dheer said at the start, the H part, the human part which would come into ESG in this matter of some years, is very, very key to what you just spoke about. So very thoughtful, Seema. I would ask Anilji, Mr. Gambhir, aspect in the calendar we have put in CSR in certain line items and ESG, and I know there is always some intertwining between these two terms. And are they the same? And can you help with some practical insights?
Firstly, at the outset, let me congratulate you, Mr. Alok, and your colleagues at Deer and Deer Associates for having taken this initiative and on the new line of business. And wish you all the best. I would also thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and interact with the team here. So good evening to esteemed co-panelists and also to the delegates. Coming back to the question, I think there's one word called sustainability, which is probably used very commonly in both CSR as well as in ESG. So that's where probably confusion is being caused, whether CSR and ESG is one. Actually, they are not one. There's a big difference in this. And I'll try and explain that.
Yes, I think the audience would love that elaboration.
And I will bring in one more aspect in this: CSR, integrated ESG, and integrated reporting. So three things are generally people are getting confused that why whether it is same or whether it's different. And what is the difference? I will try and put my thoughts into this.
Please.
So firstly, let's deal with the CSR. CSR is a Company Act mandated, which is Section 135 prescribes that companies who are having profits, 2% of the profit to be set aside based on, provisions of average of 3 years, and needs to be invested in certain projects. Projects could be decided by board of directors depending on what kind of focus they would like to have in CSR. But basically the idea of those projects will be not for the employee but for the social cause, especially when either it could be in the field of education, could be health, could be other sanitation, etc. Number of things are there which are social issues to deal in those social issues. You invest that money. If you don't have profits, you don't have to do any activity. You are not liable. So that is where CSR probably is in a limited way. But when you talk about ESG is much wider and very inclusive. While here in CSR we were talking about profit linked money to be invested. Yes, there is no binding that you cannot do voluntarily some CSR activities. You can always do that. But from compulsion or the act point of view, if you look at it, it is 2% of the amount which is prescribed. Now come to ESG side, it is much wider and much more inclusive. And if you take the sustainability word into CSR, probably it is only restricting more, though it has impact on the other S and G as well, but more tilting towards E, because that's where environment comes in. So majority of the people feel that environment, any action taken for environment protection is only sustainability. And that may not be the case. It is much beyond. Sustainability is much beyond and very more highly inclusive of many other activities. So while we look at ESG, it talks about not only the climate related changes, or fuel related, the carbon footprint related things which are there. Apart from that, also takes into account how you deal with people policies, including like how Seema was talking about diversity, angle, and also ensuring that it's inclusive for inclusiveness is there for all type of people. You are taking your policies are fair. You're dealing in a fair manner, not only with employees but also to outside stakeholders. So it's much wider. The last part in that is G, which also talks about a lot of governance thing, which is more related to corporate governance. So when governance issue comes in, I think number of things related to audit, related to policies, processes, all that comes into picture. So now probably one would be able to appreciate the difference between CSR, where you need to only contribute to project or implement those projects basis the profitability. Here it is more on a day-to-day basis, irrespective of profitability. You need to make sure that those things are implemented or taken care by the organization when one talks about ESG journey. Now coming to the last point of integrated reporting. Integrated reporting is again part of various reports which gets integrated, as the name suggests. Various reports which you prepare for annual report purposes. So you combine that and make sure that your financial data, your management strategy, your organizational structure is well presented. And that's where it becomes part of integrated reporting. So these all the three things are different. Yes, you may say there is some amount of commonality between CSR and ESG, but ESG is much wider, much more inclusive, and much more impacting life of every single person, whether you are part of the organization or outside stakeholders. It impacts everybody. So this is the kind of a difference one would see on all the three angles.
No, I think the gist which I could take out is ESG is far more wider.
Yeah.
And those CSR, ESG have some commonalities, but that subset is very small. And ESG is far more inclusive, and it is going to be for companies as a way of life.
And impact of ESG, if ESG related risks are much higher than probably risk which you have on CSR, because here companies' existence could come under question, because as we call it sustainability, if things are not done in rightful manner, as we just saw that investors probably would shun away, your technology probably may not be suitable for the organization, so obviously you will be out of the business from that angle. So number of things are there as a part of ESG which needs to be looked at it, rather than just having a limited view on the sustainability part, which is more on project investments.
Right. So I have Anubhav Kapoor out here with us. What are your views on the ESG journey so far? Is there a choice left for companies not to align with ESG principles? Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you, Sonal. And congratulations once again for this innovative thinking. I think I'm sure a lot of practitioners and companies are going to benefit with the tool that you have derived. I believe one of the slides you showed had a journey path. So in terms of how the ESG journey has taken place across the world. And while there have been a number of followers or supporters of ESG across different segments. And when I say segments, it is the investors, it's the activists, it is the corporates, it is the professionals who have been practicing ESG. And ESG is one interesting field because it brings together a number of fields it is actually the essence of the business or the activities that we do as human beings, right? So I think this topic, there's a lot of interesting thoughts that were shared so far by the esteemed speakers, and it just resonates very much with the topic. But there has also been investors have been voicing the ESG concerns about sustainability, about environment and social issues for several decades. However, it is only recently that it has translated into words of action, which are ESG related issues, right? And it has become much more important subject of discourse and practice, both for the corporates and I would say the world as a whole. And people are getting serious about sustainability now, right? And this has, of course, not happened overnight. And there are many reasons which are attributed for this change over a period of time. And I would just allude to 5 of them, which come to my
please.
My thinking based on the readings I've done. I think the first one is the adoption of the Paris Agreement on climate change and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, right? I think that was a bigger milestone in recent times of history, where which the entire concept of adopting to and mitigating climate change impact and transitioning to sustainable economies have emerged as a major global issue, right? And India has also endorsed that pact. And it will become inevitable for the corporates. I think India as a country and everyone who is doing economic activities within the country, it will have direct or indirect impact on that. So I think that was a major milestone in the recent history, which prompted the entire discussion on ESG. But I think while that was more at a country level or a sovereign level, I think at a grassroots level, I think the recent COVID pandemic has also in a way accelerated the whole relevance of ESG considerations, right? Not only for the investors, but for the common man, because we have started discussing more about social issues. We have started discussing more about health issues, the security per se, right, for the humankind, right? So it has prompted those discussions, and COVID definitely has contributed into the ESG discussions now. And of course, the investors have become much more conscious of it, and the same is reflected with the spurt of new launches of ESG themed mutual funds and growth in assets of such schemes. In fact, BlackRock, which is one of the largest supporters of ESG mutual funds, have launched 6 new ESG schemes or funds in 2020 alone. And it is higher, and its equity investing team is now includes a head of sustainable investing. I think I cannot underline the importance of ESG in modern times more than that, right? So, and as ESG investing becomes more mainstream, I think the disclosure requirements will also have to keep pace with this change. And I think, as Girishji has already highlighted, SEBI has been played a very proactive role in the country, and the recent announcement of BRSR circular is a significant step towards this direction, right? So that's a major milestone, in my opinion, in that journey. While we are talking about ESG investing, despite all the criticism, right, why ESG has become very popular with the millennials. And that's a trend I would imagine you would see all across, right? It is the young people who are coming out now and expressing that what are you guys leaving us as a legacy? Are you protecting the universe, the world, earth? Are you protecting its resources, or you will leave nothing for us, right? And I'm sure you would have heard many of these speeches or messages across. And it's the young people, I think, who are showing and are and there is a change in mindset we see in that category of investors, right? And
Yes.
was supported by Morgan Stanley, who conducted actually a survey and asked this question, and they found that nearly 90% of the millennial investors were interested in pursuing investment which were more closely reflective of the values they hold, which is ESG, right? Companies who are more responsible in terms of their environment commitments, their social commitments, and therefore they rate them as better governed companies as others, right? So I think millennials have become to have kind of played an important role, and they are leading. And as they become more, come more in the investor pool, I think ESG investing is going to expand and become more relevant, right? And of course, I touched upon SEBI, who has been in forefront and have been one of the early adopters. SEBI has introduced this whole BSR, the whole ESG concept way back in 2012. But since then, several developments have taken place. But the BRSR framework in India is basically a response to the trend of responsible business and increasing trends of ESG across the world, right? And in order that India should become a more attractive destination for investments, and it is not left behind the global game, and as we compete with the global economies and the global businesses, I think there's very little choice left for us to the ESG way of things. And I'm sure progressive companies are going to switch over to this thinking very fast and very soon, because as Mr. Alok Dheer said, that they are the khawaiyas, I think.
True.
जहाँ पे मन और धन लग गया, वहाँ तन तो जाएगा ही जाएगा. So people will move towards that goal, because I think they are mentally and the money is chasing it. So I think it just jumps out of the page why ESG is not going to be a major theme in the future. That's all, Sonal, I had to share on this topic.
No, I think it's a very clear thought process that it's not a choice anymore. It's not a choice, it's going to be a way of life for companies, and that's very nice to hear. I've got Inderpreet waiting. Inderpreet, hi. As now the first element on the global calendar, we have put in a multi-stakeholder. How does, at the start of the financial year, as I said in the ESG calendar, next week onwards, the online free access would be there. Can you explain the importance of the structure needed for ESG in a company and the importance of selecting the right performance standards like SDG, GRI, TCFD, or SASB? And any, you say, practical insights of the journey from a global perspective?
Thank you for the question, Sonal. To begin with, I will record my appreciation for the efforts that Dhirendir Associates has made for initiating this discussion on ESG on such a large scale and curating this excellent almanac, which we are positively looking at launching in India and across the globe. And hello to all my fellow dignitaries. Coming back to your question, Sonal, I would like to add a bit of background to it before we get into the importance of having an ESG structure. If nothing else, most of us by now have identified that ESG stands for environment, social, and governance. These are the three important areas representing the pillars of sustainability. ESG as a concept and as a need of hour became more because companies are being evaluated by investors to rate the quality of investment and determine the associated risks, which has been already touched upon by Anubhav sir here. But still, this is one of the most important factor, that it's all about the underlying investment which the investors have to make, and they need to judge that what are the associated risks to it. Though primarily these issues were a matter of ethics, but now they have a clear impact on revenues. Plus, now we can also see that ESG ratings or score or standard, whatever we want to call it, impacts the employee base also. The kind of talent a company attracts. The customer base has become more conscious of how a particular business, a company, is affecting the environment and the ecosystem as a whole in which it functions. So ESG reporting through scores, ratings, set standards, guidelines is a way for businesses to showcase that how they are impacting the planet in terms of these three pillars of environment, social, and governance. And even if they have been impacting the planet negatively, ESG reporting essentially gives them a fair chance so that they can showcase how they plan to improve. So it's not that only an excellent report on ESG means that, okay, well done. ESG reporting means there has to be transparency in the compliances and there has to be transparency of information. ESG reporting does not mean that it's time to shut down your businesses, but rather it's an opportunity to become more conscious towards the planet and develop sustainable businesses and a sustainable ecosystem for the generations to come. Given all this, having a proper ESG reporting structure is extremely essential, as it has evolved from a good to have to a must have practice, particularly for publicly traded companies and those in regulated industries. Also today, the investors, NGOs, customers, employees, they do not want any sort of generic statements of social welfare that the company believes in this, that, blah, blah, blah. They expect the companies to report specific data about the environmental impact, workforce makeup, community management, how they affect the society, about the economic performance. And it's all on the company and the officers who are responsible for identifying the best sustainability frameworks for their needs, which will set them up for success with the stakeholders. Given all this, it is essential for the companies to strategize the requirements early in the year and work towards it in order to have a healthy ESG report at the end. Plus, having ESG alumni calendars, etc., as launched by Dhirendir today, is a clear example of what kind of structure is required and how we need to align it across our year. This leads us to another important question now, that what is the best ESG reporting framework or a standard for a company, and how do we identify and select it? Well, we have been following a golden rule in governance that no one shoe size fits all. The same applies here. Navigating the unexplored waters of ESG frameworks and indicators is not an easy task, especially if you are not confident in your map.
Sure.
With plenty of frameworks, guidelines, which are available, choosing the right one is very crucial decision. And given the fast changing regulatory environment and the increasing diversification of audiences and their ever increasing demands like investors, public, employees, society, and the risk that we face of falling short on transparency and any non-compliance can be extremely high. This type of risk is complex and it comes from a variety of sources, which can be like industry peers, supply chains, influential stakeholder, shareholder activism. So we have like a lot of complex issues going on at the same time. The number of frameworks and standards which are available today are massive, but each of them, they have, they have a certain niche which we need to identify. It is important for the company to understand its own requirement and then select the framework or the standard, whatever you want to call it. We have the GRI, that is the Global Reporting Initiative. We have integrated reporting. We have Sustainability Standards Board, International Standards Organization, Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, Principles of Responsible Investment, UNPRI, FTSE for Good, Dow Jones Sustainability Index, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, etc., and many more across. Like you move to Europe, you go to North America, South America, you have like plenty of other formats.
I think
which
in
are
UK,
available.
TCFD is the flavor of the season now.
Yes, absolutely. And this is also, and TCFD is also like, a very small part of the entire ESG reporting. It's not, I mean, we can't call that if you have complied with TCFD, you are done with your ESG reporting. From the UK perspective, some top tips that can be used while you want to select, your which standard you should comply for. The first point is understand why your company wants to report or why your company should report. Are you reporting to meet compliance? Or are you looking at telling a value creation story for your company? Do you want to disclose forward-looking statements on how non-financial risks, opportunities are being managed by the company? So first identify what you want to do. For example, if the reason for your reporting is to meet compliance, then one has to consider, I'll be just speaking from the context of UK, that one will have to consider that regulations in the UK are also constantly evolving these days because of Brexit and other various, international issues. And all UK companies are being expected to disclose against TCFD by 2022. But we have seen that majority of the companies, they have already started preparing their ESG reports and started giving disclosures in their annual report 2021, which is a great practice. Plus, the EU reporting directive outlines rules on disclosure of non-financial information for all large EU companies. Similarly, disclosures are increasingly demanded by the investors over here, lenders and insurers, due to increasing awareness of the impact that non-financial risk can impose, can be a threat to the financial stability and viability of investments. I like the point where Anubhav sir touched that, BlackRock has come up with many funds which are ESG oriented or with the theme of ESG. But essentially, when you go and check with those funds that, okay, on what grounds you have reported, that is where we need to, place our focus that, okay, how do you say that these are ESG compliant? And how do you say that these are, benefiting the globe as a whole from ESG perspective? So, especially targeting these compliances, UNPRI is a framework to disclose how capital flows are incorporating non-financial elements into investment decision processes such as climate change and ESG screening. Again, if your motive is value creation, then you can refer to the King Code in South Africa also. There are plenty. And King Code in South Africa, it is a very holistic framework for reporting which guides the organization to reflect on their business model. Similarly, GRI. GRI is also a form of reporting which is very beneficial and effective storytelling to multiple stakeholder groups, as well as reputation and brand building for your company. The second point, after once you've identified that, okay, this is why I want to report, your second point should be to identify your stakeholder and who the consumer of the information is. Once you know that who has requested the information and what is the information requested and why is the information requested, that is the best place to start. Disclosures and reporting are definitely time consuming and they are resource intensive. Therefore, make sure that you strategize early in the year that, okay, this is what I need to do and this is how the disclosures need to follow. The last point being, one of the last tips being, know what your stakeholders actually want. Should your investors and customers want to know more about the risks and impacts of climate change on your organization, then the CDP, that is the Carbon Disclosure Project, is the framework for you. If multiple stakeholders are requiring disclosures from a broad suite of materials, ESG issues, then GRI again. Or SASB could be more appropriate if only investor-centric material ESG information is required. Further, SDGs are guidelines which are for multiple stakeholders. They have like 17 goals and they essentially cover all the issues. So the entire thing, boils down that choosing the right sustainability reporting framework, ultimately, what information your stakeholder needs is the basic factor and how they are most comfortable in accessing it. For example, some companies may also incorporate a combination of these frameworks in their report. I hope I've been able to answer
very nicely in the Prithya. I think you did bring up a very key perspective that globally on how with maturity in each market, the importance of standards. So even in the ESG Almanac, we have clearly stated 3 variables which will you would need to customize the Almanac for yourself. Would be the country in which you are operating. There would be your local laws requirements, the industry in which you are operating. So for a technology company and services, you say manufacturing company, things would be different. And very importantly, what is the choice of the performance standards, which you just talked about? Would be very, very important before actually getting the your whole pathway in place. And it has to be not a 1-year thing wherein, okay, I will go compliant with ESG. We can be aligning to ESG with a 1, 3, 5-year, 10-year goal. It's not going to be a tick box, okay, I use a particular toolkit, I use XYZ, and I would go into green. No. We would have to have that mature thought process that the journey, and that's why we said mastering the ESG journey. I would like to hear from Mr. Girish Joshi, the start you said about some sharing you would do on the investment lending all around ESG. We are waiting to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sonal. It was very interesting to hear Japrit, Seema, Anil also. And I think some of the aspects Anubhav has already covered. But as an exchange, because we also get 360-degree view, and we also get interaction with so many stakeholder associations like PRI. We have done a couple of programs. We have done a couple of programs with CF Institute also. GRI also we are doing, and other investors, global investors. So, of course, their aspect is what Inderpreet said, not only just storytelling, but what substantial you are doing. And these investors are very choosy. And there are 2 kinds of investors. Ones are portfolio investors who buy and sell their shares, and those are some investors who are direct investors, particularly PE fund and venture capital fund, because their association is very long with the company, and they want to even grow the company. They provide a lot of validation to the company strategy, and they monitor these E and S and G aspects. G, so anyhow, it is inbuilt in our corporate culture. Our Companies Act is very robust, but E and S, they bring a lot of values. What are the practices? And same way, when they do any secondary market investments, they choose some of the sectors. Even your PE is, that's why some of the companies that have higher PE multiple compared to the peer group. One of the reason is these companies are doing one of the very best practices. Even during the pandemic, some of the companies have demonstrated their business model is sustainable. They are able to operate and work 24/7 and ensure that no production is getting affected. At the same time, no compromise on the environment social aspect. So this is very important. And these investors are, I would say, they take help of some of the experts on ESG, like people like us can provide this value addition to those investors because we are also associated with the company. We means not as a Bombay Stock Exchange, but practicing fraternity, CS lawyer. And so these investors, they look for such service and they do ask one-to-one, because like, True Cost or the other people are there, because which are also giving such services. but they do take help of some of the local people who are connected with the company. So these investors, when they're cutting big checks, and another aspects, when these investors, they have tick mark your company, particularly on ESG aspects, they are long-term investors, they are sticky investors. Okay, so even when you have, because every company goes through the business cycles, ups and downs do happen in their business. So in your bad times, I would say, not using the word but in your tough time, this investor will not press the sell button and they'll remain with you. And in case you need some urgency fund, so these investors are ready to cut the checks and they'll put more money. So this is a very important aspects which company should understand, that it is not a sunk cost, or it is not a not just cost to show something as a showcase, but it is very important. And very conscious investors are there in Europe and America, and they understand these aspects, and they do drill down to a lot of intricacies and ask a lot of intelligent questions when companies go for roadshow, when they have analyst meeting, and they ask these questions and they study, they see what are happening on this company on the social media. And I'm just saying, nowadays social media is very important. So how companies are tackling this social media, I'm still not using the word nuisance, but social media pressure which comes on the companies, here and there, and how much you are matured to react to such situation. And that is, though it is indirectly coming on social aspect, this is very important, because if companies have very important strategy to handle with such situation, then you are win the battle, because then companies know this, such management will not take any hasty decision. They understand the aspect and they'll handle very gradually. So these aspects I am coming. Now coming to the disclosure aspects, I think she also touched base in the pit that yes, your fund is there, but what theme you adopted? Because there are various themes on the ESG, which theme you are adopted, and how you are sticking to that theme. So what theme, what your theme is there, and how this theme is better compared to other ESG fund. So I'm looking for that competition among the ESG fund. No, this ESG fund is better, but this has more conservative and more good strategy, which demands good performance from the company vis-a-vis other ESG fund. So I'm looking forward to that future aspects in the fund industry, fund mobilization. And within, I think, short time, it will have this
it will
soon.
very much.
Like, we find 3 to 5 years, it will definitely come. And companies who have taken right steps, and I'm again congratulating Dheer and Dheer said this calendar is a very important thing for a company. They should not run away, that this is very easy and achievable. It lays down the foundation, and they can build upon whatever the reporting standards they want to adopt, like what Inderpreet said. But this calendar would help them to create the structure.
Yes,
that's all. Thank you.
There's one very important thing before we get on to the, you say, some poll questions for the audience. On the backdrop of what we heard just from each one of you, from Girish, Anubhav, Seema, Inderpreet, and Anil, there's one part coming, and you're free, whoever wants to take that question. It is one thing that how important is the role of the board in driving ESG? Or can it be run without the involvement of the board of directors in a company? Yes, please speak. Seema, Anil. Seema, first you quickly.
Just a very quick point. I think the board is integral in all of this. What we see is what comes from the top should get done, and that is again why a diverse board is so important, because a diverse board will see all the opportunities and help a company move forward, connecting with its customers, connecting with its people, connecting with its workforce, retaining its workforce. So as far as I'm concerned, it's very board driven, but then it has to go down every level.
Calculated well. Okay, Anil, you was trying to speak something on this one?
Yeah. Basically, if you look at it, board is responsible for long-term strategy of the company, and ESG would play a vital role in that. Taking that into account, if you see, ESG is now getting into higher and higher on the board agendas, because we know how various recent events have played out on the performance of the companies. If you look at it from the risk perspective, like we talk about climate change, we talk about energy stuff, and also we talk about pandemic. All these have had a severe impact on the performance of the organization. Obviously, board of directors, when they review the plan or long-term strategy, probably these if these risks are not taken care by way of adequate measures to mitigate them, obviously the plan which they have set out for long term may not be achieved. So from that angle, board becomes a very integral part of it. I think board not only has to have oversight on the ESG related risk, but also need to make sure that the ESG program is fully aligned with management, and also it becomes a part of their KPIs, so that they get report on.
That's a very interesting thing, a part of the KPIs.
Yeah.
That is sounding
So they
good.
get a regular report on those KPIs of managing those risks and compliances required under ESG, so that it does not derail their long-term strategy. Now, the KPIs could be in the key area such as energy, waste treatment, diversity and inclusion. Could be business-related policies, ecosystem for the employees, or well-being of employees, and also the governance part, which we earlier spoke about. So I think these are the areas where there has to be regular time-bound reporting. Probably one of the way which I think earlier I heard, there's a need of having ESG committee in the company, so that that committee is responsible for ensuring that all risk mitigation and the compliance part is taken care and reported regularly to the board. So from that point of view, I think board is very integral. The entire thing actually will help in board in achieving the overall agenda. And the last part in this is we are hearing that now investors also becoming very demanding, especially on the ESG front, and the actions initiated by company. So obviously, if there's a need of investment to carry out its long-term strategy, obviously funds raising will become easier if there's a compliance, high level of compliance and risks are mitigated, and the right reporting is done on the ESG front. Otherwise, in the absence of this, obviously companies will find it difficult to raise funds or to sustain their business operations. That's the limited point.
No, that's great practical insights.
Yeah.
Great practical insights. Yeah, Akshay, can you quickly run the poll for the participants? I know we have stretched, it's almost 2 hours, and I'm getting reminders coming from. Yes, everyone has this on their screens. I think we give 15 seconds to a question. So all attending, please try to put on those yes and no's. Yes, the next question. Okay, so we saw reviewed at least once a year, 78%, not bad. Have your contracts been aligned with ESG clauses? Is question number 2. We see no's becoming more than yeses. Okay. So no's are more than the yeses on have your contracts been aligned with ESG clauses, something to really work upon. The next one. Has an ESG budget and resources been allocated for this year? Okay, we're seeing yes, no going together in the polls coming. And we see a bit of no's being more than the yeses. Okay, so no's are more than the yes part. So the ESG budget and resources has to be taken on priority. Does your POSH training include DE&I components as well? Okay, we see battle between yes being better off than no's here. Please everyone, do vote in. Okay, so it seems around 67% people say yes, 68% people yes, DNI components are there, but few are saying the DNI components still not trained upon. Does your organization conduct a workplace safety audit every year? I think again, we're seeing a healthy pattern around 58, 60% saying a yes to it. Okay. Yes, the next question. I think we have got 2 more questions. In COVID times of virtual working, have the discussions on ESG increased in your company? Because COVID times have been tough, honestly, with everyone. There have been challenges, and has ESG contributions at individual end increased? We see yes. So I think that's a very good culture building process, which we can see from the responses coming from the attendees. Poll 7, the last question. Do your current and prospective investors find your ESG activities sufficient? I think 50-50, not bad. Not bad. So there are things to be done. No has come in more, 54, and yes is on 46. So there is definitely this mastering the ESG journey is not going to be a one-time thing from whatever responses we did see coming in from everyone. And I know I'm getting the alarm clocks. We are almost 2 hours in, and we need to open in for the Q&A. Akshay, we ready with some Q&A questions? I know.
Sonal, we already have a lot of questions in the Q&A box.
Okay, because I would just like to inform that
specifically for Seema Bennett. There's a question specifically.
Please, Seema. For Seema, the question.
Sonal, I'll take excuse. I have a hard stop. Thank you so much for.
Thanks so much, Mr. Kapoor, and thanks to Mr. Khandelwal and Mr. Manish Gupta, who had to leave because of something which came up. And also, I would like to just inform something urgent came up with Mr. Alok Dheer. I know we have exceeded our time limit by half an hour, so everyone's diary is gone a bit down. So he thanks everyone.
Sonal, I also have to.
Sonal, he thanks everyone.
Sonal, even I have to leave.
Okay, so
maybe another 5 minutes maximum.
Akshay, we could take the questions separately.
We can take a couple of questions, Sonal. Starting, we have Seema with us. There's a question that we specifically
quick. Yeah,
Seema.
Please.
So Seema, the question is, talking in terms of S of ESG, what are your views on lesbian women inclusion and they getting leadership roles? As we see, they face double discrimination on grounds of gender and sexual orientation. Your views, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I touched upon before, intersectionality is so important. And so, for example, with women, yes, of course, it's a challenge. We already know that, for example, gender on boards is at a low level. At the maximum, it's 20 to 30% in Europe. It's increasing, and it has been for the last 5 years. But absolutely, intersection, the policies that companies put in should really take into account all protected characteristics. So that means gender, sexuality, age. All those protected characteristics have to be part of that intersectionality mix. And if you want a truly diverse population, you have to have leaders with all those different characteristics in your mix. So, we are very much for having that intersectionality at those leadership roles. I hope that sort of vaguely answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any couple of quick more questions we can take in, Akshay?
Yeah, there is a question which Mr. Girish Joshi may, give us some insights on. The mining of cryptocurrency consumes around 0.55% of global electricity production. which is equal to power consumption of many small nations. What policy consideration should the government of India adopt while legalizing cryptocurrency? In terms of ESG, should big companies consider the likes of green bitcoins while considering cryptocurrency? Mr. Joshi, any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, and I would just, it's too early to comment because
Yeah.
cryptocurrency as itself is, I think the way signals are coming from our government authorities, including Central Bank, the Reserve Bank of India, it is not so encouraging whether we want to go in this direction. So whatever cryptocurrency trades our rich or HNI people are buying, they are buying on those platform. But as a green cryptocurrency, yes, it will be good. I would say, to catch eyeball for the people to put the money. But as a country or the exchange, whether we will have any policy to encourage, I doubt. It's too early for us to comment. Too early, and even I have not seen any such sign in the global developed country because they themselves are on the dilemma whether we should go on this path or this path. So even in some part of in USA also, some policymakers are not in favor of cryptocurrency, including Europe. So subsequent question whether you should go for green cryptocurrency, it's we are far away from that.
Far away.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi.
Yeah.
Inderpreet, if you could briefly try and explain us the difference between ESG and integrated reporting. That's one of the questions from one of the attendees.
I think that one was taken by, Inderpreet, if you want to answer, because I think Anil Gambhirji has already spoken on that.
Yeah, if you do not mind, and I can take this question
Sure,
separately
sure.
and send a response. Would
Sure,
that be okay?
not a
Because
problem.
I just have a hard stop and I need to rush.
Sure, not a problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah. So
I will also leave.
yeah, so
okay?
I would just put a vote of thanks, Akshay, with if you allow me.
Sure,
as I did inform that Mr. Alok Dheer had to join a pre-scheduled meeting which was there. So in his absence, I take to do a vote of thanks with all the attendees who took in all this more than 2 hours. You have been there with lots of enthusiasm and questions we could see in. Thanks lots for coming in, and each of the panelists. Right now we have got at the last, still we have Mr. Anil Gambhir, Girish Joshi, Inderpreet, and Seema. Thanks so much, and thanks to Mr. Anubhav Kapoor, Manish Gupta ji, and Dheeraj Khandelwal to have joined us today in this whole event of mastering the ESG journey and the unveiling of the ESG Almanac. Thanks so much, everyone who took their time out today. And coming next week, we will be releasing the Almanac for everyone's free access. And we'll be informing through the social media channels and other manners in which that from the day you could click and start seeing both the versions, India and the global one. And we will come up with the recordings and the transcript of today's event so that more people can hear the great insights which came out from everyone who has spoken today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, esteemed panelists. Thank you so much, Sonal.
Thank you.
Sonal Verma seeking your permission to end the webinar for everybody.
Thanks so much, Lex Witness, of having supported in doing this event in a good manner. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sonal.
Thanks,
Thank
Lex.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.